Is Donald Trump dismantling the globalist empire that's been running the world since 1945? Every president since Carter has talked tough on Iran, but then they folded. Trump didn't just draw a red line. He actually killed the supreme leader, bombed the nuclear sites, and blockaded ports. I've got a special guest with me today, Dr. Mimi Song, who's going to help us unpack Trump's strategy against globalism, what the meaning of the Iran war is, and why now. We're going to do this all through a biblical worldview, a biblical lens. I'm Ryan Howard in for Tamara today. I'm the host of Cutting Edge Faith, and you can find more about me at ryanshoward.com. You can find my podcast on YouTube, all the podcast apps. And so it's just such an honor to be here with you today. So let's go ahead and bring on our guest, and we're going to just get right into it. Dr. Mimi, welcome to the Tamara Scott Show.
Thank you for your invite.
Now, I'm going to give a little bit of your background because you've got quite a unique background and a strong depth in the topics that we're talking about here today. You've got a deep understanding in geopolitics. You're a born-again Christian. I know you came to know Christ shortly after Billy Graham went to South Korea, I think in 1973. There was a big crusade and revival that happened there. You were a real estate developer, and you were really involved in politics, church planting, education, philanthropy. You've even had appointments from Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, I know, with the Asia Pacific Trade Commission, which led to the Korea-California Trade Mission. And I know you've been the VP of the Korean American Commissioners Association. You're also dealing a lot with overseas things and shipping and oceanic issues. And so you've just really got a broad experience. You're working on a lot in church planting as well. But give us a little bit of what you're working on today, and then we're going to unpack and dive right into what Trump's doing and his agenda and all that.
First of all, thank you for your invite. I'm greatly honored. And I cannot say I am an expert, but I believe there's timing has been changed, especially Trump come to the cabinet for a second time. Things has been shifting very quickly, so that I believe a lot of things will be evolving that we never expected for last practically, say, 250 years. And we must get ready, especially church spiritually. And also that letting not only church, but the world know there's a paradigm is shifting. So I'm actually visiting Korea right now. I'm meeting with a couple of political leaders and also academia at this moment, and lecturing about what is evolving in the stage of world history.
Now, it's I think 2 a.m. there where you're at. And so we're just grateful. Our audience and I are grateful that you're willing to jump in and take a break from your busy schedule and interrupt your sleep. That's so important while you're over there. So we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Why don't you first kind of give us an overview of kind of what you're talking about as far as where we are in history? I know you say we're in a unique position now, and I love how, and I had you on my podcast, and I want to encourage everybody to go check that out. We talked a lot about the revival that happened in the Korean Peninsula and the real history of the Korean Peninsula and how it used to be the Jerusalem of the East, and how it used to be a lot of Christians there, and how communism was used by the elites and evolutionary theory was used to basically abuse the people and take all their rights and all that. And I really want to encourage everybody to go check that out. But yeah, so Dr. Mimi, why don't you start us out with what you mean when you say where we are in history?
That, of course, that as a Christian and the student of the Bible, that I believe that God gave us the summary of the history, which is done through Prophet Daniel. The last kingdom of the statue of the Babylonian king was actually Roman Empire. The Roman Empire of two leg, which means two ideology, and that it divided into 10 toes. And then the kingdom of God will that come by the time frame. So it is very important to know what are those two legs and when will be that two legs divide into 10 kingdom or 10 powers, 10 superpowers. And also that means that whatever that the globalism or globalist or the Roman Empire trying to reinstate or revive the Roman Empire will be failing as per the book of Daniel. Based on that, actually that I believe those two legs are actually Catholicism or Papal Order and the Orthodox Church of Russia, and they will be never combined as one power. And that's what the globalists trying to do, especially the last 70 years. And now Trump will show up on the last stage that the globalistic agenda hosted by the elite has been failing. And now Trump is finishing up, so to speak, the demolishing, or I don't know what the proper words, through the his last intended war of taking Iran. So we're in the very the epic times. And it is very interesting that he named his last operation as Epic Fury. And I believe that he gave us enough clue what he's doing in this stage of the history. So it definitely reforming since 1945. The after World War II order is being dismantled, and there'll be a new reset, so to speak, and more Christian way by America, the sovereign nation. It is very interesting. He mentioned sovereignty constantly, means that there has been a challenge of sovereignty of the United States and all the individual nation in the global community. That's the reason, there's a reminder, he actually created a board of peace about a few months ago in Davos. So definitely he is the aggressor, is challenging, and he's succeeding.
What do people over in that part of the world, how do they view what Trump is doing, what he's trying to do? They have the same view that we do, or do they see him as an unhinged dictator type that just wants to be the leader, or do they see the strategy in this, or is that something you're trying to help people understand over there? I guess what's the
Well,
view of everybody there?
it is very interesting you say the we, because of course America has been just waking up last 10 years, 15 years. And of course the media, that the PSYOP operation for last couple decades, the Asia has been informed the solid way that all the globalism is a democracy, and therefore there's not lots of negative that information about Trump, his policy. And so I'm here to lecturing to people about this new Monroe Doctrine, and it's all about actually creating the era of the nation with the sovereignties. And so they're free from, or they become a free nation, so to speak, from this English empire, that the global banking system. And it has been very slow, but I received a lot of receptive invitations. I've been lecturing to the youth and also church pastors.
I think have you gotten pushback? I guess I'm wondering about church and politics, because a lot of times I think in the West, there's a very big misunderstanding of this idea of separation of church and state. People see it as the church not influencing politics and not being involved, but that was never the intention. When Jefferson wrote the letter to the Danbury Baptists, it was, hey, the government's not going to be overly cumbersome and overstepping with the church and over influencing the church and using the church. It was to keep the government out of the church, not the church out of the government. And I think we're seeing a revival of people coming back to a biblical view of Christians having massive influence on government. Is that the same kind of thing you're seeing there, or is this kind of new for them as well, or is that something that it's old hat?
Oh, it is very subtle, but it become more obvious. There's more awakening coming that taking place in the church community. But in the Asian culture, of course, we're under the greater influence of the Confucius, which is very obedient to it, not in the imperial kings, but generally speaking, for all the cultural norm that has been assessed, or the assessed or displayed or to us. So culture conformity is much stronger in Asia than America, of course. And however, that speaking that as Book of Daniel showed, and throughout the history, we are governed by empires. But there's only one nation successfully break away from this empire system in the global community, is America, 1776. And also, of course, Russia in 1053, there's a great schism. So Russia actually won the first one revolt, the papal order, 1054. And since then, actually, the United States, the only one was successful in as a declaring sovereignty. And therefore, we're not under this empire or the kingship. So that just like Lincoln declared after Civil War, that this is a nation stage of the people, by the people, for the people, which means we elect our own leader who can actually make laws for us, representing our interest to establish, to conquer our freedom of religion and the press and the speech. So it's a very important stage. And actually, America even waking up recently, and I think that is all about Make America Great Again movement by Trump.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's interesting is I've been more involved in politics for almost 20 years, and not my entire life, but at least the last 20 years or so. And you really see this standard talk of Christians or political leaders. And I even saw it, especially when I ran for office in the Iowa House in 2020, but of just using Christians as a voter block or a market segment. And then once politicians get elected, they just kind of forget about everything they ever said about Christian values and they just do what they want to do. But we see Trump is the opposite of that. We see he's actually probably what we could claim is the most pro-Christian, pro-biblical president. Not perfect, but in modern history. And so we're going to go to a commercial break here in a little bit, but I want to unpack a little bit of what you actually see as his strategy and what is he doing? What's the end game? So give us maybe the 1 minute overview, and then we'll come to a commercial break, and then we'll come back and unpack that.
Actually, that his campaign agenda was very clear, especially after January 2025. He declared sovereignty of the United States and liberty and also Christianity and the world peace. So what it means that he's declaring that we lost our sovereignty or sovereignty has been challenged and liberty has been challenged, Christianity has been challenged, and world peace has been challenged by certain power. So he's fighting back. So his strategy was very clear. And of course, it was you have to interpret a little bit, but he has been the first, the president that I recollect since my immigration to United States that openly proclaimed the sovereignty of the United States, which means the sovereignty of the people's nation.
That's well said. We saw what the Biden regime did with the global organizations and actually taking away the sovereignty of the United States, going the opposite direction. And so
Absolutely, yeah.
we're going to go to a commercial break right now. And when we get back, we're going to dive into how he is doing that. And we're going to get into some details. So come back and we'll see you in a minute.
I need to tell you about our Bella Grace. The slender little sachet has the elixir with the collagen, astaxanthin, and cat's claw. In 2022, got an award for helping with cognitive function, and in 2023, in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. But the best is what we hear from so many of you. You have noticed better joint health, improved mobility, less eye strain and fatigue, helping with computer vision syndrome, visual acuity, depth perception, alleviating dry eyes, but also helping with your immunity, your stress management, endurance, less fatigue overall, not just eye fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health. Then there's the fun list. The firmer, smoother skin texture, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, decreased age spots, more even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduced oxidative stress, healthier nails, less cellulite, hair health, better sleep. Who wouldn't want any of those? Call them beauty in items if you wish, but who doesn't want to feel a little bit better or more confident when you're going to present in the public square, when you're going to speak at a city council? And who just doesn't want to feel a little healthier? Maybe they're just byproducts of being healthier. Tamara.bellagraceglobal.com. Tamara.bellagraceglobal.com.
I'm the Tamara Scott Show, and I'm Ryan Howard in for Tamara today. And I'm joined by special guest, Dr. Mimi Song. And we are unpacking what Trump is doing to work against the globalism that we've seen coming over the recent decades and how he's bringing back American sovereignty, liberty, and peace. And we're going to unpack how he's doing that. And we're all doing this placed where we are in biblical history. We are in a biblical timeline here. And so we can bring Dr. Mimi back on and we can dive into what we were talking about before we went to the commercial break. And that was the big picture of what Trump is accomplishing. And that is you mentioned he was the first president, at least in modern history, recent history, to talk about openly about the sovereignty of America and actually taking actions to take that back, to bring liberty back, and to bring peace, and actually doing things that are doing that, stopping wars and those kinds of things. So could you give us kind of an overview of this strategy, or kind of what's taking place practically that he's doing? And then we can get into how Iran fits into that a little later.
Oh, he's incredible, the charismatic, also determined the leader. And he does two way, the domestic way, also international way. And he lay out the foundation, the theme as a Make America Great Again, which means America was great. And so we need to recover our old, that the founding fathers' wishes that was established 250 years ago, so that he understand that we've been indoctrinated and people has been changed. Country has been the change to have a new norm, and we need to conform to that new norm. And Trump made the challenge against that, and also not only culturally, that also that domestically, that he have a incredible policy. And the first of them, of course, is that he actually established two gender in the American culture, and also to establish that we must go back to the founding fathers' principle and what it is. And that has been actually very well described that in his inauguration speech. And for him to reinstate or the Recover America, Make It Great Again, is that he need to actually make sure that he have a right, that American people who understand the history and sworn into as American, and declare the pledge of allegiance to the America. Therefore, he need to make sure that he can have the proper fair election, so we can actually choose our leader to making laws accordingly as per the constitutional value. And so the first thing he did actually do the illegal immigration and the policy. Therefore, he blocked the border. Rather, he opened the border only for the legal immigrants, which is very important because I'm an immigrant. I'm a legal immigrant, and what the livers has been doing is they dilute the culture, and there's a massive migration of the people that was not legally coming into the country, and that was done intentionally. So he made a brave policy of actually secure the border. Of a first term, he failed to do that, but second term was very successful. Now, the America, of course, is the nation of immigrants. The legal immigrant, the immigrant policy is very important. Is the core of the country's fiber, and we are contributing as individually for the betterment of the country, and we are loyal to the country. However, when the illegality of the immigrant, that means that there's some intentionality, because without the border, it's not a nation. And if you want to enter any country, for example, you want to illegally enter to Iran, then you are in the big trouble, right? And that's the reason we have a passport and visa. So it is very unreasonable even discuss about that border issue. And he is reinforcing to secure the border to the south. And he did a great job doing that against all the media interruption and also certain academia. And so they've been using the Asian people or other people as their pawn. We love America. We want to be American citizens, but we want it the legal way, so that we can be part of America. We can be a contributor to the America in betterment as a very beneficial and productive part of this nation. So immigrant policy has been very important. And before then was just kind of slip through. I live in California. I see those phenomena for years and years. So the fundamentals of the controlling border is not only it influenced the culture, and number two, responsibility as an American, and thirdly, it was greatly that influenced the voting power. and also, therefore, the registration power. When we elect the people, someone with unauthorized citizen, that means that we're not making laws for our own benefit. That's a very destructive way to think. Therefore, I think his immigrant policies are very, or both rather say that both the policies are very critical, very important. So he did a domestically excellent job. And number two, domestically, he also do to give us the freedom to choose our curricula. For example, the Department of Education, he take it away from federal and give it back to each state. So each state can choose their curricula and doesn't have to be governed by the government, so to speak. So there's no uniformity or certain pressure of a new that created consensus, so to speak. So there has been a lot of challenges in education for last couple decades. I've been here since 1980. I see the America changes so much. The America in 1980 that I know was not America I see today. So there, I can see there's some intentionality of somewhat creating new norm of the society, and which was not like of 1960s or before then the history, the modern America. So he's doing right the educational way and the immigrant way, and also he's breaking down all the issues such as a drug issue. And actually, drug is actually very strategy of the enemy, which English used to conquer Qing Dynasty, 1860s, of 100 some years ago, and that actually totally degraded the Qing Dynasty, and they have such an incredibly humiliating demise because of drug, and actually it's a very epidemic in America is unreal. Unless somebody bring that kind of amount of the drug into America, so that he's actually cracking down that the chain or cartel, whatever that is, so that I can see big difference taking place in America to gaining back the people's strengths. I don't want to say men because somebody might attack me, come and say men, but men are very important because men are the core of the society for historically. And once we're losing men or Christian men or men with the right kind of the perception of history and national identity, we're losing it all, especially in America. It consists of the many people from 100 some nations. I don't know exactly how many, but then what make America great? What united America as a one nation? We have only one thing we glue as a one nation is actually Christian value, because there's a founding principle of the United States of America. Therefore, for he bring back Christianity and Bible reading and Ten Commandments legally is a very critical things for revival of America and also that MAGA movement. And he's doing this such an excellent way, very graciously, so that I appreciate his domestic policy very much. And of course, that therefore it is critically important we all go out, vote for our leaders in the local community this year. Midterm election is so critical. That means that'll determine that who's going to make what kind of law as per our that reflecting our desire, the voters' desire. Therefore, that we can continue the legacy of America, the sovereignty of America. America, in one word, is a Christian nation and alienated from the English Empire. And therefore, we need to continue our legacy that way. And he's doing such a great job, and I appreciate that. And the foreign, internationally, of course, that he know that we've been depleting incredibly by that sending a lot of monies out. And of course, Elon Musk did it through the Dodge. And he started executing, implementing very systematically, withdrawing from unnecessary, unbeneficial international alliance, so to speak. Another example is the World Economic Forums, that the weather, that Paris Treaty, and also that he actually withdrew from 30 international organization of UN, which is a very brave move by him, so that we can maintain our standard. And as a not part of the globalism, one empire, but also as a sovereign nation who believe it that we believe in religious freedom, government stay out of our faith, and also that we believe that our sovereignty as of the people, by the people, for the people, not for the kingdom, not for the imperial any regime or global banking order. So he's doing tremendous job, the foreign base as well. So as there's election interference, the many times, of course, as per RFK, that we've been interfere somebody else's election for decades. I don't know the legality or the details of it, but when RFK say it, and it must be very accurate. Nevertheless, that we've been interfered by the illegal immigration, number one, and number two, the drug cartel. So he's doing actually directing the drug cartel in the south of our border, and he did a tremendous job. So he's actually interfering somewhat the chain of the money cycle, the freeze of financing. Yeah, that's what he's doing. So I'm very grateful for that. And also Ukraine and Venezuela and the Iran is a part of that, his policy. And he's doing excellent job. As the Section 311, he declared right before Epicuri. And now he's actually stopping this banking cartel behind the oil money in Iran, which is basically London based.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I appreciate the breakdown of the domestic things that he's doing. And really, like you said, it's taking us back to the Christian foundation. That's literally in how our government is set up, the three branches of government, judicial system, and the laws governing our society. And it's so critical. Now, we're going to go into a little bit more. We got a commercial break we're going to go to, but make sure you stick around, because when we come back, we're going to go into a little more deep into what we have as the international portion of this and what Trump is doing internationally on a global perspective. And we're going to talk about Iran and some of the implications of this and where this all perhaps is going. So make sure you stick around, and we'll be right back.
Do you like drinking toxins that could cause cancer, inflammation, and all kinds of other autoimmune diseases? Of course you don't. Much of our water in America is full of toxins. That's a proven fact. Worldviewwater.net. Worldviewwater.net is your solution so that you can drink good, clean water. In fact, I give it to all my 3 fur babies, all my 3 dogs. I have one under my kitchen sink, one of these filters, as well as on my shower. Worldviewwater.net.
This is our new NutraSwish, Numi NutraSwish. You can find more information at Numi, neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS, one of the products we offer, because you all have different preferences and respond differently to different items. So this is our lavender. It's for ladies anywhere along your journey. No hormones in it, but if you're taking a supplement, of hormonal supplement, you might want to check with your doctor. The blue is for anyone over the age of 18. It has glutathione, which is a antioxidant, helps with over 400 cellular functions, and it helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, one of those terms we learned after 2020, and it helps detox glyphosate. The good glutathione helps detox glyphosate. Glyphosate is found in ag chemicals or lawn chemicals, and some are very concerned about possible links to cancers, HPVs, and diabetes. But the blue bottle, the glutathione, helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, and glyphosate. Then there's the mango-colored bottle on your screen. Numi Neuro helps with your mind, your memory, and your focus. Now, again, after 2020, we heard something about brain fog, a term we'd not heard before. Whether it's from a virus or a vaccine, many have found relief, a little help, with Numi Neuro, the mango-colored bottle. When used with the blue bottle, it is so positive that the American Brain Council wrote about it, and it looked like an endorsement. Though we're told they don't write endorsements, it was simply a positive review of what they saw. You can find more information at Numi, neumi.com/TTSS, neumi.com/TTSS for the Tamara Scott Show. Why? Because we want you feeling your best. And when you use that TTSS link, you help us be our best.
Welcome back. You're watching the Tamara Scott Show. I'm Ryan Howard in for Tamara today, and we've got a special guest with us, Dr. Mimi Song, discussing what's going on around the world with Trump's agenda and how he is fighting globalism. And so we're going to dive into some more of the international things he's done, including what's going on with Iran and the implications for China. And then we're going to end on what this matters for our faith and what message the church needs to hear and why it's important for the church to be aware of this. Welcome back. Now, Dr. Mimi, one of the things, obviously, that's on people's minds, Trump's meeting with China today, we know what he did with Iran is directly connected with China as they get a lot of their energy from there. And we have the Strait of Hormuz and all the things going on with that. We saw what he did with Venezuela, and that's gone to the wayside as far as news headlines goes. But we see when it comes to Iran, we saw Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, they all broke with Trump, at least to some degree, over this Iran war. So could you maybe give us a little understanding on why Trump's actions with Iran are aligned with his greater strategy and not just another Afghanistan or Iraq?
Of course, Trump actually mentioned a couple of times the length of time that we engaged in the foreign wars for the last 70 years and how long it all of them were. And however, he's actually dismantled basically all military power of the Iran very shortly. And actually, he started with a bunker buster, and secondly, then he actually disarmed them a little bit in a sense of that they are off guard. And second, when he have an ethnic fury, he eliminated all the Air Force and seamen, and so that he have absolute the superiority, and so war is practically over. And also, secondly, he actually attacking the banking cartel in the Iran since 1979. The regime change is since with the Islam regime, and he's doing an excellent job in his strategy that how to dismantle this new power. But as the Iran, the empire is in the Bible is a Persian empire. They're brilliant people, and they lost their battle to that Greece with a certain vulnerability they have, which is not the main discussion of this show. However, they are very, very proud of the people that are very brave people. And they've been actually great ally to Israel since 1948 to 1979. And now they has been changed, very hostile to Israel, and which means that equals means a lot of that unstable, that the stability has been broken because of that. And after the destruction of the Iraqi regime, of course, ISIS coming up, and that adds so much the power since Iran being there to feeding those people to the guerrilla warfare, so to speak. And so Trump have to be very precise and very, very strong and make a point and make a quick war. And I believe he'll be done before July 4th because he's that in the inauguration speech that he want world peace and he want to have a national sovereignty. That means that the reason he actually create a war or attack Iran means that it is against the regime or that engineered the power is against the world peace. He actually performed everything what he said and execute his policy accordingly how he promised. So you can assume that the dismantling Iran's current power structure is part of the world peace. Then we must ask why is that? Of course, they are the nation of 20% world of the oil and gas supplies. Very critical that the logistics of the Hormuz and supply the China's the oil or vice versa. They feeding each other in a sense of economy, and one is a fuel, so they're very deeply integrated. But if you're looking back the history a little back, the five coordination of the national security, their strategy announced that December 5, 2025, he actually declared a coordination Russia, China, and India, and Japan, and America. And if you can see, there's two things you can notice it. From the power has been shifted from oceanic power into continental power and to Atlantic to Pacific. And those five nations, including America, have one thing in common. They're greatly damaged or influenced or liberated or controlled by the English Empire. they have a commonality to core sharing, just like America have a one core foundational base, and that is Christianity, and alienate from the English Empire, and to establish the freedom for the people of the people and by the people. Now, those he making this the core five, and that is Asian nation, basically Pacific nation. They are the mainly the continental power, so to speak, with a 35% world population. So when you see that how those nations can be glued together, because the Soviet was a former communist, and also Japan was actually our enemy in World War II, and actually that China was not friendly with America for a long time. And so then what is the commonality of those core five Trump declared for a national security strategy? And that is that we're all victim of the English Empire. The British lost for 200 years. After the Opium War, China, and they actually extract all the silver from China, and also to the Russia. And of course, that they've been invaded numerous times, and they right now have a war, proxy war in Ukraine with the English power, basically. And America also alienate the ran away, so to speak, from that power, from English Empire. And that was very bloody and vicious war of 1776. So Trump actually making a very extraordinary policy to bring those nations together and helping that the boat of peace to establish this new era of a real freedom and the sovereignty of of each nation. And while he's doing that, Iran is so critically important because it does supply all the oil to China and all the Pacific Ocean. So he established power or control of the Strait of Malacca, and therefore he occupied the logistics first. And therefore, he can provide to China and the security of the transportation of the oil. Also, China has been under communist influence for a long time. Who made the communism? Communism is a new ideology, was done in the London and by Karl Marx and Darwin. There's a trinity of the communism, which is actually Darwinism. Darwinism is actually against Christianity because they think we're from animal, we're from the little amoeba, and we evolved, which is total degradation of the humanity, our integrity if you are actually believe in evolution as a science, then we have a major challenge that we have no basis of our moral, our sovereignty, our integrity or freedom whatsoever, all these great things or love, family. And it's only by natural selection, only the strong control everything that actually endorse the communism. When you're animal, then also the owner of the animal control the food supply. So that endorse the communism. So they goes together. And those things he want to break it. And the China as a big empire under the communist influence after demise of Qing dynasty, there's a vacuum of the power. They lost their old men through the Opium War, their courage, and therefore China is under the influence of the English banking empire for a long time. And Trump want to alienate China and bring them into the influence of America of believing new Monroe Doctrine and also believing sovereignty of the China. And so therefore, for him to do that, he actually work with the energy supply of China. Now he can actually talk to China. He just left to Beijing and heading back to home. And he had a great time and have an incredible agreement. And whatever media said is not very important because you can see how they greet him and how his departure was greater than his welcoming. Means that they're just very happy with his visit and also very happy with his policy. And so therefore, I believe that Iran, the energy supply is critically important for him to concrete that world peace agenda by or around core five nations by America, Russia, China, India, and Japan. And for him to do that, he must secure energy supply. Therefore, he's attacking Iran, and I think he's very successful.
We're going to go to a commercial break here in just a minute, but I love how you tied all this together and then you brought it back to even what is unfolding, what has unfolded this week coming into the weekend, which is what is going on with China. And we saw really his work with Iran had lots of benefits. Obviously, it fits into the entire agenda and the strategy, but neutralizing Iran as a nuclear force and also getting the attention of China and bringing them to the table, because while they do have exports and things that the world needs, they also need energy for that. And I think there are like 80 or 90% of the imports or of the exports of oil from Iran. So obviously that's very important. He also dealt with them with Venezuela and really bringing China to the table. And so it'll be interesting to see what unfolds with Taiwan and all that. But let's go to a commercial break. And when we come back, I want to dive a little bit into sort of where do we see this going? What do we see as the ultimate end of this? What should we look for? What's coming next? And then I want to land the plane and talk about what this matters for our faith. And I know Dr. Mimi has been working with a lot of youth in Asia. And so we're going to dive into that when we get back. We'll see you right after the break.
Friends, this is Brandon House. For more than a year now, I've been teaching through the book of Revelation, and the response from you has been overwhelming. You've asked me again and again, when are you going to put this study in print? We want to mark it up. We want to share it with our families. It's here. My brand new 2-volume commentary on the book of Revelation, verse by verse, chapter by chapter. This is not a watered down, allegorized replacement theology approach to Revelation. This is a literal, grammatical, historical study, the way the Lord intended his word to be read. And I connect the prophecy of Revelation to the headlines you're watching unfold right now, the rise of global government and the convergence of end-time events the Lord Jesus warned us about. Folks, we are living in serious days, and there has never been a more important time to understand what God has told us about what is coming. Get your 2-volume Revelation commentary today at worldviewstore.com. That's worldviewstore.com.
Welcome back to the Tamara Scott Show. I'm Ryan Howard in for Tamara today, and I'm joined by Dr. Mimi Song, our special guest, and we are unpacking Trump's strategy to defeat globalism and to make America great again and to bring back our sovereignty, liberty, and also peace around the world. And so we've been diving into that, both what he's been doing domestically and internationally, and more recently with Iran and China. And so as we bring Dr. Mimi back on, I want to talk a little bit about maybe just a few minutes on where you kind of see this going. What do you see happening next, either with China or what's the next move? And I don't know if North Korea is involved in that at all, if you see them anywhere, but where do you see this going next? And then after that, we'll unpack and finish on kind of the implications for our faith and walk with Christ.
This is the counter reset against Reset 2030 by Globalist. So he's attacking in person, actually as a sole power, without helping of other, so to speak, the former allies, or he actually disclosing they're not allies through this Iran war, and therefore that he is liberating the world structure since 1945, World War II. So I believe there's a great reset, so to speak. I hate to say new world order, because new world order is a biblical term, will be done by Jesus Christ, and the heavenly kingdom is coming. There's a true new world cosmic order. However, the enemy of God using new world order and use it as a globalism. And however, Trump is countering back, and I believe it'll be successful. Book of Daniel, 2 legs will never become one, or 10 toes never become one body. So last kingdom, as per Book of Daniel, will be the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire will be continuously divided into 10 toes, which means, in other words, it'll be multipolar, the power structure. And Trump will bring them up, which is done by, actually established by or campaigned by Roosevelt, which was failed because of Churchill, and he bring it back. And therefore, the sovereignty of each nation, and bring this global South into that, actually develop the states so we can live together. So truly, it is global prosperity is being unfold, so to speak. He want to banking a new banking system bulk, and probably he'll use a new collateral. Now, I believe, I personally, this is my assumption, he's going to use collateral as like oil, so nobody can steal it, and so he's going to do new things. But he's not only for America. He making a coordination of American national strategy is Russia, China, and India and Japan. So definitely there's a power shift. That means that China no longer under the influence of the globalist. So is Russia and Japan and India. And therefore there'll be a new that somewhat it's not no longer is the western centric, the word is over. It's a new word, is not western centric, is a people centric. The God's creation centric, which is all nation, all people. And so that's what he's setting. So therefore, there'll be an opening of the border in a sense, a very productive or peaceful way without war. Therefore, there'll be a opportunity to bring the gospel, and there'll be peace never experienced before his kingdom come. And that's what I see personally. And actually he is the carrying out very prophetic the duty, bring all nation unto God's good news of the gospel, so they have access to it and they enjoy and experience the miracle and the supernatural, the growth in the globally. And so therefore the people see it and hear it, experience and the miracle of God and also prosperity. There'll be blossoming in the economy all over global community, because all the wealth is not controlled by one party or elite or banking system. It's not a distribution of the wealth, but whatever they put it into the ground, they can actually harvest back. And so there'll be a great reward because of his the policy. And I believe that that's going to giving incredible opportunity for revival again, not only in America, but globally, as Iran have a most explosive growth in Christianity. They just love Jesus, and Jesus showed up to them in person. Those people now have a freedom to choose their savior, and which is being the politically or in the policy, and they at least have a freedom to choose not being executed or persecuted, and that's what Trump is doing. Even though we have a lot of peace, so to speak, word organization, but there's many people executed, killed, and persecuted in Africa or Middle East, and actually those people never helped them in person. They actually, while we're happy and raising our children, have a great education, the other side of the world was suffering with a major persecution, and they had no freedom financially or in the no religious freedom. They have no choice. Whatever they're given, they have to conform to their cultural or society norm. And now they have an opportunity to choose their God and believe in their God. So this is new era will be extremely prosperous globally, and also because we have an opportunity and freedom to then believe in God, because God is a God, good God. Our Father God is the set our destiny to increase and multiply, and actually sharing our overflow with our neighbor and community, even between the nations. So I believe the greater era already, they're starting by Trump.
That's a good summary. I think we've got just a couple minutes left here. And one of the things I try to do with my podcast is to help people understand, we as Christians, we need to understand the times, and like the sons of Issachar, and they understood the times and they knew what Israel should do. And that's why it's important for us to really know what's going on here. We don't need to be obsessed with it, but we need to be informed of what's going on and the implications biblically and also for our lives in a practical sense. But we also need to be like the Bereans, where we really know the scripture for ourselves. In Acts 17:11, we know the Bible, we search it for ourselves, and we can take everything that we hear to the word. And so I know you're doing a lot with, I think it was 10,000 youth, I think in Asia, and getting a revival force as a mentoring speaker. What's your final message here in just the last couple minutes to the church? Why is this important? What does the church need to know?
Of course, God always give us the timing and the calendar, and He given the promise to Abraham after our fall. Since Adam, God gave covenant to Abraham. The Abraham's recovery of promised land is very important because not only geographically, but we actually breaking down the core of anti-God culture. So God given to Abraham time of the conquering the promised land, and the time is called actually when and the Amorites, the sins of Amorite is filled to the rim, then he's gonna given the promised land to the descendant of Abraham. That's a promise of his timing. He always gave a calendar, is his general calendar. So when the sins of Amorites was fulfilled to the rim, then Moses showed up. He already chosen him. Just like that, after 3,000 years, the Amorite used to living in the Pasan Golan, which is Golan Height, was occupied by Israel after 2,000 years, 1967. However, never become a part of permanent territory of Israel until 18 and 2019. Trump, I believe I recollect that 2019, Trump actually giving Golan Heights that back to Israel as a sovereign and permanent territory against all the wills of nations, especially European nations, and given to that. And that is very significant because finally the Golan Heights came back permanent territory as he given the promise to Abraham in the book of Genesis. And that is very important. So since 2019, clock is ticking that the time to that Messiah of Israel is approaching. It already clicked from 2019 after Trump declared and given the territory of the Golan Heights to Israel, in my opinion. And therefore, that I think that we're in the last stage, that they're waiting for his return, and he's giving opportunity to the harvest. Ironically, 2019, Trump actually crossed the border of the DMZ and went to meet Kim Jong-un. So there's another historical time. 2018, he met him in Singapore. And 2018, May 14, he actually declared that Jerusalem as a capital of the Israel and from Tel Aviv, which was challenged for many decades. So 2018, Israel recovered Jerusalem as the capital of the nation. And 2019, God given them the Golan Heights, the land where Amorites used to live, back to Israel. So you can see God is giving us a clue that time is approaching very quickly. When he does that simultaneously, 2018, Kim Jong-un, the Trump met together in Singapore, and preceding year, 2019, he crossed over DMZ. So you can see the time is clicking very closely, and there's a parallel things happening in the North Korea and with Israel.
Yeah, sad. Now we're out of time. There's a lot more I wanted to get into and unpack, but I think we did a great job of giving us an overview of everything. Real quick, I know people can find you on YouTube at Mimi Song TV. Is there anywhere else they can contact you? Just real quick, and then we got to run.
Maybe some TV, if you kind of let me know that you're interested in, I'll be in touch with you. And also that I love to be invited by a lot of American talk show and let them know what's happening in Asia as well. So please be in touch.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Mimi, for joining us. And thank you to our audience. It's been great to be on again with you. I'm Ryan Howard. Again, you can find more from me on the Cutting Edge Faith podcast on YouTube and all the podcast apps, or visit me at ryanshoward.com. Thank you so much. God bless, and we'll see you next time.